Hey, this is Laura Whitmore with the She Rocks podcast, and I'm here in New York City, hanging out, having a cup of tea with the fantastic songwriter Shelly Peiken. Hi, Shelly.
Hi, nice to be here.
Yeah, it's great to see you here in New York. It's a sunny but chilly day out. But anyway, we're here to chat about songwriting and digging into new things. And so let's start off by talking about the project that you're working on right now, which I understand is that you are recording some of your own material.
Right.
Yeah, so share about that.
So in my songwriting career, I've had, I call them my handful of hits, because there's been about 5 that were really, I mean, I've had hundreds, thousands of songs recorded, but 5 which really charted and still sustain me. I started out wanting to be a recording artist, but I got this little detour when people started, legitimate recording artists started wanting to record my songs. And that was a really nice diversion from my road, because it was a time that physical albums were selling and you could make a decent living, even if you had album cuts with other people recording your songs. So I did that for many years and really, really enjoyed it. I also enjoyed the aspects of not having to tour and not having to leave my bed every night, coming home to my own home. So that's been great, and loads of stories in between. But it came to a time when I just felt like the business was changing. My function in the business was changing. I wanted to stay creative in my middle age, my post-middle age, and I just didn't see a reason why I shouldn't be. So I decided to finally make that album I always wanted to make, and I would reimagine, I call it, these 5 songs, and they include What a Girl Wants, Bitch, the Meredith Brooks Bitch, Chrissy Hines' Human on the Inside, Jessie J's Who You Are, Brandy's Almost Doesn't Count, and then the rest of the album would simply be songs that I've always loved that never got heard before. So whereas I think 5 years ago, I was sort of in a dark place, wondering where I fit in. Now I feel like I'm having more fun than I've had in a long time.
That's really great. You know, it's so interesting when, you know, some of the priorities of your life shift. You know, your kids grow up, you know, different things happen in your life. And
that happened too.
Yeah, and then you can, you focus on, well, what do I really want? And, well, I guess it adds new pressures and takes away old pressures, you know, but it's your choice.
You know what, Laura? Nice. That's actually, you'd think that would be a really easy question, asking yourself, what is it I really want? Because we're getting a little off topic here, but the other night I was trying to get to sleep, you know, and I was having trouble getting to sleep, and I thought, let me distract myself from some of my worries. And I thought, I've got this beautiful future in front of me. What is it if I could wake up tomorrow and have anything I want, aside from a successful record? And what it was, you know, and I think it wasn't so easy to answer that question, because sometimes I'm so afraid to name it, because then when you name it, it's real. And if it doesn't happen, then you feel like you've failed for some reason, that you didn't get that thing. But I made myself name a few things, and they weren't, when I thought about it, they weren't that far-fetched. You know, I want to get through this year and do my record and get as many people to hear it as possible. That's a no-brainer. Of course I want that. But I thought, I want to spend more time in New York near my daughter. Maybe get a place here, which I thought, that's great. You know, that's crazy. How could you afford that? I'm like, you know what? I saved my money on those album cuts. Maybe I could do this. Life is one day shorter every day. I want to take an acting class. I saw that show, The Kaminsky Method. Did you ever see that show?
No,
Michael Douglas.
I haven't seen it.
I don't want to be an actress. I don't want to be cast. I think it's a wonderful way to discover yourself, to face your fears, to find out what your vulnerabilities are, to put yourself in other people's shoes. Done. How hard is it? I live in LA. I'm going to take an acting class. And I want to travel and use my miles and upgrade so I can lie flat and go international. And what's so hard about that? I think
I love that. You figured out, I'll travel, but I have to lie flat.
Right. But at this, I've earned it. I feel like I've earned it. I was a good girl. I saved my money. I never thought it was going to last forever. Getting back to the music business, I never thought I was going to have a Max Martin single every month or every year. Those 5 I had, I'm very grateful for.
Yeah, wow. You know, when you're naming the songs that are on your album, I'm thinking, wow, those are all really great, like, female anthem type songs. Has that been your...
No.
Interesting. But
no.
What you write resonates in that area, though.
I guess so.
Yeah.
But ask me to write one, forget it. Ask me to write anything specific, forget it. I just freeze up.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, and when What a Girl Wants was hot, everybody wanted another. They were so cheesy coming out the second time. Everybody wanted another bitch. There's no such thing. You can't clone a song. You know what? There are some people, some writers who can take a brief like that, or a brief from film and TV or commercial advertising, and write specifically for a brief, or write a song for Kelly Clarkson and know her high note, or know the syllable she likes to end her lines on. And I'm not judging that. I wish I could do that. I'd have a whole other, a whole other chapter, but I can't.
Yeah.
I just can't. I was always the type of writer who said, what's going on inside me, and if I was writing for another artist in mind, I could always find something that I imagined that artist felt, that I related to, that common thread, and try to write down that vein. But no, I guess that's what came out. What a Girl Wants came out that day, and Bitch came out that day, and there's sort of they might be female empowerment songs, but I always thought that they were very identity songs, self-identity songs.
Right.
And Bitch was as much Meredith as it was me. I mean, we took so many walks before we wrote that song, and we found we had so much in common that when we sat down to write, we had that common line. I
love that song.
Thank you. Thank you.
I probably know every word to it, too.
Thank you. So next time I'm playing it and I forget them, I could just look to you.
Like Laura, and I'll be like,
second verse. It's so fun. I played the Iridium last week on Victoria Shaw. She's a big Nashville writer. I don't even have to qualify that. People know who she is. She has a show on PBS called, not Victoria, well, it is Victoria, but it's called Songwriters Under the Covers. And she has a couple of guests on every week. It just got picked up for a second season. And we all play. I was on with Shelly Wright, who was just amazing. What a gal. And we play covers. I played Bitch. I played What a Girl Wants. I played Almost Doesn't Count. And, okay, I forgot what I was going to say about it. What was your last question? Where were we going?
I was just saying that I knew every word to your song.
Yes. And so I played Bitch, and all the women, wherever I play, they all know, they all smile, they all sing it. It's like a revival. Yeah. And it's a great feeling, because what's my job? I want to write a song that makes a difference. I want to write a song that shifts the universe in some small way, that allows other people, man, woman, whatever, to identify it and feel better about whatever they're going through, to keep them company through a chapter in their life. And I feel like I did it with that song, and it gets licensed every week. I just got I wish I could talk about the license I got last week, but
you don't have to tell us.
No, it's not like it's so lucrative. It's just special. It's a
Yeah.
special usage. It's a special, somebody else is going to sing it. It wasn't the master. Yeah. And I'm just so delighted that it's still, it never left the zeitgeist for some reason. And I think with the Me Too movement, it's got a second coming, so God bless it.
Yeah, it's, but I mean, even just singing it makes you feel empowered.
Thank you.
So
good
for you.
Thank
Good job. What's your album called?
So, I went through a couple of thoughts about that. I was thinking of Late Bloomer because it took me so long. Better late than never. And I thought, I don't know. But somebody had said to me last year, so when are you going to make this 2.0? What a Girl Wants 2.0. They called it Bitch 2.0. I said, you know what? I love that. 2.0. It's the second version.
Yeah.
But to be honest, there's been many versions in between, but not from me. Right. 2.0, it's the 20th 2.0 anniversary of What a Girl Wants being the first #1 song of the century. It's 2020. It felt very symbolic to me, and it resonated when I thought, 2.0, and then I put an etc. for the other songs that aren't 2.0. So it's going to be called 2.0, etc.
Have you been playing these songs like all along? Do you play out?
I do. I don't play with a typical band and do typical showcases. What I do is, and I have one coming up. So if you're in Los Angeles at the beginning of March, I don't know when this is airing. You might want to edit out the day, March 4th.
If you missed it, she'll be coming around another time.
I do a 1 hour. I call it stand-up humor about being a professional songwriter. And it's funny, and it's heartfelt, and it's sad. And it's a journey from when I started out to where I am now. I should tell you it has a happy ending, but there's some darkness in between. And in between the stories, I weave my handful of hits and a couple of other songs through it with my acoustic guitar, or if there's a piano around, I'll incorporate that. I'd love to one day be able to 3-camera film it and try to sell it as a doc. There's so many interesting documentaries out there. When I go to Netflix and I'm in the mood for a doc, I might scroll through and see something that I wasn't looking for that I think that'd be kind of interesting. And I just imagine that people might think that that's Confessions of a Serial Songwriter, an interesting enough, provocative enough title that people will watch it. I do the show. I see people cry. I see them laugh. I know they're entertained. And they're not all musicians out there. It's like anybody that ever had a dream about wanting to be something, I think appreciates it.
So you wrote a book with that title
was
nominated for a
Grammy in Best Spoken Word.
Share about that experience. That's amazing.
I wrote the book about 4 years ago, and it was after a dark place in my life where I saw digital streaming rates just hijacking songwriters' sustainability. Our income streams from physical copies were no longer. And that's where the middle class of songwriting was. Because if you didn't have a big fat hit on terrestrial radio, that's the radio you just put on in your car, FM, or you couldn't make a living off of an album cut anymore. And I felt I was okay because I had some of the hits during the gold rush, and as I said, I saved my money, but I didn't feel that I could sustain myself moving forward, or younger people coming up would never be able to know how they had second jobs, third jobs. I also felt that, when I started out, I was in my 20s and everybody was in their 20s, and now it's like a few decades later, and do I really want to write about the same things that the younger people I'm still in the room with want to write about? Is this meaningful to me? And it's no judgment on them. They're young. They should want to write about that stuff. I was just, where do I fit in here? You know, I had just raised a daughter and I had my freedom back, and what do I want to do? And I felt pushed out in certain circles, and I felt, you know, there were young people that would be in the room with me every day if they could. And then a lot of them, of course, wouldn't want to be. And because of technology, there were so many more quote unquote songwriters out there, because you didn't necessarily have to be a musician, and the competition was fierce. When I started out in New York, I feel like there were like 30 of us, you know, and we got called, and now there were just so many, and we were being replaced every day. Every 5 years there was a new crop of songwriters. So I started writing about it and posting and blogging, and this turned into what my friend Ronnie Schiff, who I met, who edited for me, said, you know, I think there's a book here, and it's not just a collection of anecdotes. She said there's an arc here, an emotional arc here of your journey, and gave me a couple of pointers about tone and grammar.
Yeah.
I learned a lot about grammar and vocabulary and a thesaurus. And we brought it into Backbeat at Hal Leonard. That was a division that was starting to publish musicians' memoir. And we got it published. And somebody suggested, I think it was Kaylin Frank at Disney, who's a good friend. She said, you know, you should narrate this and submit it as an audiobook for the Grammys. I was like, Kaylin, are you crazy? She said, no, you should definitely do it. And I thought, that resonates, you know, when somebody gives you an idea, if you're sort of not compelled by it, then let it go. It's like Marie Con with the
Does this bring me joy?
It brought me joy. It brought me joy. So I did it. I narrated the book, and I wound up submitting it, and it got nominated for Best Spoken Word with Carrie Fisher, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Bernie Sanders, and Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, and I didn't win the Grammy, but honestly,
you were in good company.
That's a win for me. A lot of people say, no, you can't say that. You've got to win the Grammy to be a win. No, that's a win for me. Bitch was nominated for Best Rock Song. One Headlight won.
Yeah.
I still feel like you get a nom. It's really hard to get a nom.
Yeah.
And that was back when there wasn't social media and you couldn't promote yourself.
Right.
It worked itself, you know?
Yeah.
And I was very proud of getting nominated in that category. It was a beautiful year for me, and a validation that when you're in a dark place, it's temporary and there is a way out. And the way out is to follow your truth. Write about what matters to you, whether it's a song or a musical or a memoir. If you're a creative person, follow that truth. Be authentic, and the universe responds. I really believe it does. So
I think so too. Like sometimes it's so interesting, like you were saying earlier, if you say it, then it's out there in the universe. And sometimes that's super powerful, I think. I mean, it's a little terrifying too, because you're making some sort of commitment to yourself, but you know, saying this is what I want, this is where I'm going to go, I'm going to try this. Like, I think that's so
if
powerful.
It's not terrifying, it's probably benign and boring and beige.
Yeah.
You know, I think the things we're afraid of, I mean, I don't want to say, okay, so I'm afraid of jumping from a plane or you know, I don't want to put myself in a position where I'm terrified every day and my stress level is up to here, but things that I've always dreamt that I wanted to do that I fear, I think are worth pursuing.
When you did the audio recording of your book, did you just do that in your own studio? Or?
I did.
Yeah.
My husband is a film and TV composer, so we had a studio. I hired an engineer who had done audio books before, because it's different.
Yeah, I'm curious about that.
The parameters are different. The pee-pops, the little spittles that come out sometimes. Somebody has to listen for that. Ronnie Schiff helped produce it as well. The timing in between the chapters, the little bumper music. I mean, it's a whole different thing. And I'll tell you what else was tricky. I have a very breathy voice. And I have an issue with my vocal cords. When I talk too much and when I sing too much, the quality of my voice changes from smooth to really raspy. And sometimes I don't even have a voice, which has become a real challenge for me to be aware of how I'm speaking and how much I'm singing and vocal health and what I'm eating and when I'm eating, because I could not have different chapters sound like different people.
Right.
I had to reschedule a lot of sessions because it had to sound like the same woman in chapter 1 as chapter 24. So that was a whole learning experience too, how to record your audiobook.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Was that released just like digitally, or was there a CD of it? Or do you know?
I had to think about that. No.
Like, was it something people can listen to
on Audible?
On Audible.
Yes.
Audible. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's not a CD. It's digital.
Right. It's digital.
Right.
You download it into like your phone or
right.
whatever. Yeah.
And then the book was physical copy. It was in bookstores. The first day it was out, I was in New York City, and I ran over to Barnes and Noble, and there it was. I was like, oh my God. It was like a hit record.
Yeah.
That felt like a hit record.
It's so interesting. You know, I have other friends who are writers and have written a lot of books, and, you know, the book industry has somehow been able to maintain its like pricing structure and value to people, so it hasn't fallen down the same slope that the music industry has.
Well, a lot of the family-owned, the smaller stores have closed.
Well, yes,
thank God there are people who like the experience of turning pages and feeling the texture of a page and smelling a bookstore. There's a certain aroma owed to bookstore.
But even when you buy a digital book, like, it's still like, you know, a decent amount of money that you're paying for the book.
Right.
You know, so at least that market is still like,
knock on wood.
Knock on wood.
Right.
Whatever. We got some wood right here. So I subscribe to your newsletter, and I get your blog alerts. And did you start writing your blog before you started writing the book, or?
Yes.
I just want to say your blogs are awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. And anybody listening, ShellyPeiken.com, sign up. I only send one a week. I don't want to bombard people. Yeah. And I try to make the content relevant, humorous, not too wonky. I do a lot of advocacy. I talk about that sometimes because we need supporters, songwriters, musicians. They don't need to support me. They need to support themselves, so I let them know what to do when it's time to do something. But mostly it's like a day in the life. And it's funny, Laura, because when I was trying to get the book published before I had a publisher, I spoke to a book agent, and she read some of the book, and she said, you know, you definitely have a voice, but you need to start a website. You need social media presence. What's your Twitter following? I was like, Twitter? I don't have any Twitter following. And I'm thinking, oh my God, does this really matter? And it does. Before they even read your first 20 pages, they want to make sure you have a presence. She said, you need to start a blog. You need to do, and I thought, oh my God. But you know, that's how I am. At first, I think to myself, that's crazy. That's absurd. But then I process what they're saying and why they're saying it. We live in a whole new world, and you can find your audience through social media. Say what you want about it. It's a powerful tool, and I actually found a wonderful audience. People I've made friends with, people who meet me in different cities if I'm going there to speak, who I've been just chatting with on Facebook for 5 years. You know, oh my God, that's what you look like. Give me a hug. So I started the blogs. I said to myself, okay, I know what I'll do. I'm going to have this book published in 10 months, and I'm going to write a blog a month to keep people engaged. And then as soon as I have the book published, I can stop. But it took a lot longer than 10 months. And I got panicky. I said, well, those are the only 10 blogs I have. And then I thought, girl, what are you saying? You never have a new thought? There, you have a thought bubble an hour.
Yeah.
Keep your phone near you. I'll hear a song and I'll think of a blog. I'll hear about digital streaming and how they're paying us, and there'll be a blog. I see an interview with Taylor Swift, and there's a blog. There was so much to say. And so I just thought, Shelly, you can write a blog a week. Why are you putting a limit on this? And so they started coming more freely. Even after the book came out, I haven't stopped. Mm-hmm. So the book came out in 2016. It's 4 years later, and I find no trouble writing 600 words about something I'm passionate about every week. And Yamaha has asked me to do a monthly blog for them on creativity, which I also do and find extremely cathartic. So writers write. There's always something more to write about. There's always another book, and there's always another song. When writers say to me, but I gave that song away and then someone recorded and it wasn't a hit and I'll never write another. What are you talking about? There's always more. Yeah. If there isn't, I was at a school a couple months ago, and this kid came up to me after I spoke, and he said, our next assignment is to write a song about a story. He said, what do I do if I have no story? And I wanted to give him a hug and say, don't be a songwriter. Do something, do yourself a favor. I don't know any writers who don't have endless amount, a well of stories. So the answer is yes.
I forget the question now, but okay.
It was like, did you start the blog before the book?
Yes, but
it was the long-winded.
So, as you're speaking, I'm thinking, as a songwriter myself, like I find when you start to become in tune with the things you hear on the radio, what people are saying in the news, what people say when they're speaking, you hear great lines everywhere. Yeah. It's just being tuned into that. And I think as a blog writer, which I do as well, you're right. Like, as long as your consciousness is turned on to the idea like that I could write a blog about that, like I have something to say about that topic, then the ideas are endless. Right. You just have to receive them.
I think you just put it in a way I never thought of it. It's as long as you're turned on, as long as like you're open for things to fall, for you to consider. We have to examine, right? Mm-hmm. We're always examining ourselves where we should be. We're works in progress until the day we die. We're never done, right? So our minds change. There are so many more things I want to write about other than music, and maybe I'll venture someday. Maybe I'll start once a month. I'll write about how much more woke I feel than 2 years ago. By the time I write about it, I'll be ridiculed for using that word. Some reason that word is going to be biased. I don't know. But, I never thought of myself as prejudiced in any way, biased in any way. But with all that's going on in our country right now, we all have to look at ourselves, and ask ourselves when I'm walking down the street and I see somebody that doesn't look just like me, does it occur to me somewhere inside that they're not like me? Even without any judgment, does it occur to me? Do I see them as a person of color? Do I think they're Asian? Do I think they're African American? And is that bias, or is it just noticing? I mean, it's good to ask ourselves these questions. Do we treat people? I feel like in this age, I treat everybody that's different from me better. I smile more. I am more welcoming if I see in my neighborhood a gardener who looks like they may be Mexican. I am overly nicer to them. I smile. I let them pass. That's not good either. Because I've talked about this, and people or minorities have said, we don't want that. Mm-hmm. We want to be treated as if we are, not as if, as the equals that we are. Yeah. So what is that reverse race? Reverse, but it's
I don't know.
Crazy what's going on.
I think it's trying to unravel all these conscious and unconscious elements that are part of you for all these years that we've lived. Things just affect the way you react to anything. People, subjects, colors, songs. And this is a new conversation that we're having.
Right. And it's worth writing about.
New conversation.
And worth writing songs about. Yeah. And it's just limitless. As the world revolves and as we evolve, there's never nothing to write about, which doesn't mean we can't have writer's block, because that's just psychological in many ways, and we all ebb and flow, but it all comes back.
I will say too, I pretty much 100% write about music in some way when I write my blogs, posts, but for example, for Valentine's Day, I just felt like writing a blog post about love, and I was okay. So what?
Sure.
If it's on my music blog and it's not about music, you don't have to read it if you don't want to.
Good for you.
And sometimes our audience will forgive us for wanting to.
Sometimes they'll love you more.
They'll love you more.
They will love you more. They'll say, "Oh, she's not
Here's another
just
dimension.
one-dimensional." Right.
Yeah.
I let myself do that once in a while. I don't get into politics, and oh boy, it's not because I don't want to take a stand. I think that more people should. I think, I love Bruce for taking a stand and not caring who he loses. Barbara Streisand, people of both sides, if they take legitimate, clear-headed stands and not being afraid of losing half of their following. I just feel like when I go down that route, my whole thread gets hijacked by trolls and haters, and I just lose my plot.
And it's, part of it's, what were you trying to accomplish? Did that help you accomplish that thing, or did it just
make it worse?
Make it worse. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard to know. I mean, I'm with you. I consider that myself many times because I have very strong opinions about what's going on, but I have to deal with commerce and sponsors and all these other audiences that may disagree, and we have to think about those things,
consider them,
because we live in the world,
right.
But anyway, so let's get back to music.
Yeah.
So I'm super psyched to hear your new songs, your new interpretations of your songs.
Right.
Have any of them come out yet? I think they have.
So,
right?
What a Girl Wants 2.0 was released February 7th, and we've got a video that's coming. Ooh. I actually did a video. I didn't think I wanted to do it. I thought, I'm not a diva. I can't wear a garter belt and a push-up bra. It's like, and that's another subject. That just makes me so mad. So we're trying. We don't want to be objectified. And what does that do, ladies? But the video was a lot of fun. And we're going to. I did a. I just want to. I'm just going to say this first time on the air. I recorded a song called "Human on the Inside" that Chrissy Hynde recorded in 1997, and on a whim a few weeks ago. I emailed her and I said, you've just spirited me through my life, and I'm just going to ask you, would you consider singing backup vocals on my version of your song? And she said yes.
Yes. See, you put that out into the universe.
Yes. So Chrissy Goddamn Hind is singing backup vocals with me on my version of the song that I wrote for her.
That's
Isn't
amazing.
that crazy?
That's so
it's like
cool.
the biggest artists are the ones, the most iconic ones are the ones that say, yeah, no problem. Hard to get in touch with others.
Yes. Yeah.
I'd love Brandy to sing on Almost Doesn't Count, but it's getting close to the wire because we're almost mastering. So I worked on most of the album with Eve Nelson, who's part of the 2% of producers who are women in the country. She is amazing, just so creative, and she's been my friend for many years. I only approached people whose company I enjoy, whose creativity I trust, who don't yes me to death, who accommodate me but tell me when they think I'm going down the wrong road. Bring it down a key, Shelly. You know, too many chords in this. How can we bring it into the 21st century? So she did most of the album. Wally Gagel did one song, and Phil Thornalley in London, who is a great artist himself. He wrote a song called "Torn" with Anne Previn and Scott Cutler. Writer's credit a few years ago, but he's a journeyman. You know, he's doing it. I had some wonderful people play on this album with me. Kasim Sultan played bass on a couple tracks. He plays with Todd Rundgren since the 70s and Utopia. Adam Dorn played bass. Janet Robin in LA played some guitar. Hamish Anderson, an Australian bluesy rocky guy whose song I heard on KCRW a few years ago, and I became like a groupie, a fangirl. He's wonderful. I don't want to leave anybody out. It's just been a great experience. You know, I finally feel like I'm in the artist seat where I'm thinking about how do I want this to sound. Forget about how it sounded on the record. That was a hit, although I might have loved it, and I'm grateful for it. How does Shelly approach this song? How can I best put it in a different light? And it's been wonderful. You know, I feel like there are young people who like what I'm doing because it gives them a reason to feel like they can have some longevity in the business. And some of my more mature friends dig it. Where am I from? Because they are also inspired to stay in the game.
Yeah.
That there are other roads to go down. Yeah. You know, I still co-write for Modern Records. I'm in the room with 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds, and I enjoy that. Although I don't do it 5 days a week like I used to. It's just not realistic, but I still love the process, and I don't think I'll ever stop. I just realized I can't do that every day and be happy. I need to tend to me.
Right. Yeah, well, it's been such a pleasure to speak
Laura.
with you. We're so excited to hear your music.
Thank you.
Tell people where they can find out more.
So I'm on Spotify. I'm on Apple, Deezer, Tidal, Amazon. It's Shelly, SHELLY PEIKEN. My website is shellypeiken.com. I'm on Instagram with an underscore in between my first and name. Okay. They can find
track
me.
You down.
Yeah, please do.
We'll put
Sign
some
up
links
for
in
my
the
blog.
description.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing that.
All right. Thanks
this
so
has been
much.
so easy.
Yeah.
We talk good.
All right. Bye, everybody.